Welcome.
We ain't afraid of no ghosts.
This is your number one podcast for ghoulies and ghosties and long-legged beasties. Bringing you everything you need to know about things that go bump in the night and interviewing the personalities behind them. Make sure your doors and windows are locked. Now, here are your hosts, your ghost hosts, Scott and Julie.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Paranormal Project. How are you, Julie? How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, Scott. How about you?
Good.
We're both just waiting on these storms to come in anytime now. We're going to have some little thunder and lightning.
That's what we were saying before the show. If the power goes out, well,
but so long, it's been nice to know you.
Nice to know you. Chanel will have to sing a little bit, or
Oh, poor Chanel.
And just a little news for our listeners, and we'll remind them next week. Next week is our last show of the season. We are going on hiatus for the summer, which is, to be honest with you, I'm kind of excited because we've got a bunch of things planned. So it's the last live show. I know we're going to be putting out some of our other content, using shows that we've had for the year, and then we're booking out some exciting guests for next year. So next week's the last live show, and I hope you'll join us. We have a guest tonight. We have psychic medium Tammy Christine. Tammy is coming all the way from Oklahoma City, California. She's a member of Afterlife Paranormal in Oklahoma City, and she is also a member of the Warren Legacy Foundation for Paranormal Research. She's going to tell us a little bit about that. So welcome to the show, Tammy. How are you?
Hi, how is everyone?
We are doing great.
Doing well.
Thank you for joining us.
And not to correct you, but you said I was in Oklahoma City, California. And
I'm telling you, I am off. There is no, who the heck thinks Oklahoma City's in California?
I don't know.
It's all right.
I'll bet there is. Okay, start Googling. I bet there's an Oklahoma City, California.
Here's the thing. Julie knows enough not to make fun of me because there are enough little cute faux pas.
I'm just so used to it. I'm tired of correcting the man. That's it. It's done.
Your viewers are going to be really confused.
Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. I mean, who would even think? Good Lord. So anyway, I'm glad I didn't even catch that. Thanks for clearing it up.
I did it. I wanted to start singing the song Oklahoma from the musical.
Right.
Oklahoma. Right. Scott, you know it. Don't make like you don't know it. You do know it.
I know it.
He just shakes his head. It's just Julie being Julie, So, and Tammy, welcome to the show. Welcome to the craziness that we call the Paranormal Project.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
How did you start? I mean, let's talk about your mediumship first, because that's, how does that begin for you? Have you done this your whole life? Has it been a part of
I haven't done it my whole life. I saw an apparition when I was 8 years old. Mm-hmm. In my basement. I lived in a rural part of St. Louis called Barnhart. And there we have basements that kind of all have walkout basements. So the way the land is, it kind of goes down to where you can walk out of your basement, but it's underground for the most part. And I'm just in my little pink frilly pajamas playing with my sisters and started to walk across the room, and there's a man standing there, and he's see-through, and I can see beyond him the glass doors, the chain link fence in my backyard, the grass, and I'm trying to make sense of this, but fear of flight comes into play, of course, and you're a child, you don't know what you're seeing. So right. I ran up those stairs so fast to go tell my mom and dad somebody was in our house, and the next thing I knew, my dad's outside with he's trying to find the prowler, and my mom's it was a big ordeal, and nobody was around, and we lived in the country. It was kind of out where if anybody were there, you would have known it. There's no way they could have hidden or moved away that quickly. So it was kind of an interesting ordeal. And of course, everyone was like, oh, it's your imagination. It's your imagination. So after that, there's several other little things that occurred along the way in my childhood. And it was always like, how did you know that was going to happen? Oh, well, I don't know. Oh, well, it's coincidence, so a lot of my childhood, it was just kind of, oh, we're going to dismiss that. We're going to dismiss it, or, it's not a big deal. And honestly, I applaud my parents for that, because when I look back now and I think upon it, it's probably a good thing, because if they would have taken off with that and said like, oh my gosh, what, we've got paranormal, and like they could have gone crazy with that. And we see that so much in the residential paranormal world, where people just want to grasp onto something as being negative or bad that occurs, and then we're on the wrong track. And, so it's nice that they didn't go that route.
Did you ever find out where the portal was in your house?
No, but I have
only $1.
Right.
When I started working with Scott, I had said to him, I've been investigating for about 15 years. Scott came on board about 3 years ago. And so I was sort of like his trainer. He was my trainee. And I said to him at one point, I said, Scott, if I had $1 for every time a resident said to me they have a portal in their home, I'd own an island in the South Pacific right now.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? I mean, who's to say? There could be portals everywhere. How do we know? Like, right? They could come and go. I don't know. There's lots of theories about portals.
Right.
But yeah, so I kind of started out seeing things and having things happen as a child. As I came into my adulthood, my grandmother was very influential in my life. She was part Native American. She was very religious, Pentecostal. So there was a very loving, caring, kind, sweet, generous woman. But she would always tell me, I'm going to come back and talk to you once I've passed, because you're going to be able to handle it. And I'm going to give you a message for your mom. And I never really knew what to take with that. I just, it was a conversation, you have it and you kind of go, okay, grandma, and give me a hug. But she did. So I had the wonderful experience of sitting on a beach. To take you back a little bit, to digress, my grandmother wanted to go back to Hawaii very, very badly. And my mom worked with the airline. And so she had been there once with my mother. And she was in the hospital. She had had a cardiac arrest. And they put her in the hospital, did surgery. They got her up really quick and had her start walking through the halls the day after her surgery. She had another massive coronary episode and didn't make it. We were scheduled, my husband and I, to actually go to Hawaii like the next week for an anniversary trip. And as we sat on the beach, fireworks are going off, people are everywhere, there's loud noise, people's music playing, you name it, it's happening. It's all busy, very, very loud and abrupt. And you've got the beach crashing in. And all of a sudden, it was like I was in a complete void. Like time stopped. There was no noise, no air. It was like a void. And I just felt this breeze on my ear. And I heard her voice say, tell your mother it's beautiful here. I will see her again. And I love you all. And then all the noise came back. Everything started being normal. And I turned to my husband and I said, did you just hear that silence? Did you just hear that? And of course he's, no, what are you talking about? There's fireworks going off. Like, we're sitting on a beach. There's people everywhere. So she did in fact come back and say, tell me what she said. And that was pretty profound. And I still yet wasn't on board. I still yet was a little bit skeptical, a little bit, prove it to me, that these things are really happening, that these abilities do exist. So basically 5 years ago is when I really kind of had an awakening, went down the rabbit hole, and have been practicing mediumship since. And my father passed. And this story is every time I tell it, I get goosebumps, because it's just like it just happened 10 seconds ago. But I was laying in bed. He had terminal cancer. We knew he was getting close. We had planned to go down the very next morning, and I couldn't sleep. I was anxious. I wanted to leave right then. I just felt terrible, like having to wait 12 hours to drive, but that was our plan. And as I'm laying there feeling really anxious, I felt a presence in the room, and I felt like somebody was there, and my dog got up from the end of the corner of the bed and moved out of the way as if somebody had just moved him over, like very, very irritated. And I watched my mattress rise up, because it's one of those that the memory foam. When he moved, it went up, and then I watched it go right back down in the shape of a hiney, someone's hiney. And I'm watching that and looking at that, wide awake, knowing I'm wide awake, even talking to myself like, okay, someone pinched me. I know I'm awake. I'm seeing this. What is happening? Feeling that uncomfortable energy. And my phone rings, takes me out of the moment. It's my mom, my sister, my brother-in-law, and they tell me that my father passed 5 minutes ago. So then I started to cry, got upset. My husband said, what do you need me to do? I said, nothing. I just need to go talk to him. I just need to go have a moment. And I went out to the living room, and this is where it gets interesting. So I'm in the living room, which is off the hallway to my children's rooms. And we all sleep with our doors closed. It's a false safety sense, I guess, like sleeping with your door closed. Do you guys do that?
Yeah, it's like don't put your foot outside the bed covers, because something.
You don't let your arm hang off the end of the bed, right? Yep.
Right. So I'm sitting there and just kind of saying, Dad, I'm sorry I wasn't there. I feel terrible. My daughter's door swings open. And naturally, I'm thinking, oh, crud, I woke her up. Now I've got to go tell her that her grandpa passed. This is horrible. Walk down the hall to kind of head her off at the pass. She's asleep in her bed, and the door is across the room, and it's open. So as soon as I get that, I'm like, wait a minute. My mattress, now this. Then my son's music starts playing in his room. And I'm like, what is happening? It's like a breadcrumb trail. So I go to his room. He's asleep in bed. His phone is on the charger across the room. And I'm like, what is going on? So I'm putting it together kind of 2 by 2, just like, okay, this happened and this happened. And I'm getting it all together, and I'm thinking things, but I'm still not quite convinced. And my dad was a Vietnam vet. He always said, if you buy an expensive casket and put me in it, I'm going to be so mad in the afterlife, because I don't need that. My body's just going to disintegrate. I don't need you to spend money on expensive. Just put me in a box and put me in the ground. And he said it all through my childhood, growing up, even toward his last hour. And the song playing on my son's phone was Alice in Chains' Man in the Box.
Oh, wow.
I knew. Instantly, you just know. And then I heard his voice say, you were right.
Tammy,
and I'll explain that.
Everyone else hear it? Or was it just you that was hearing it?
Hear what?
The music and
oh no, it was playing. Yeah, audible.
It was yes. To everyone.
To everyone. Yeah. And then I heard his voice say, you were right. And I just knew. I knew right then and there that this was my green light. This was my do what you've meant to do your whole life. And it was his apology in a way. Because my father always told me I was nuts. It was coincidence. He poo-pooed it away. Like, oh, there's an explanation. He didn't really believe in the afterlife most of his life. He did get baptized, and toward the very end, accepted God into his life. And so that was wonderful. And so it's kind of his way to come back and say, hey, you were right. It's all true. It's all true. And go for it, because I've been telling you no all your life, and I want you to do it.
So I'm curious, Tammy. So now that you because I think when we first open up, it's a little more extreme. At least it was for me. It's so much more subtle now than it was. But I sit down with you and you do a reading. Is it like that for you now, or is it very different, the way that you receive your information?
No, it's completely different. Yeah. Completely different. Not anything like just, I do still have things just come. They're just knowings. They're just there, right, like that. But I use and work with my spirit guides, my angels, my guardians, and I work through them for everything. But when I get information now, it's, it's like every typical medium. It's either clairsentient, clairvoyant, it's all the different clairs. I either see stuff with my third eye, I can hear audibly,
Yeah.
And it just is a variety of things. And it's never the same. Every reading that I do, it's never the same. One may be stronger than the other, depending on the spirit that's coming through and how they want to communicate.
But I also feel like it's the openness of the person that you're sitting with.
The sitter.
When they are open,
yes,
it changes things. Now, people will come and say, "Oh, I'm open. I want to talk to my mother," but they're in such a state of grief, or they're,
right.
whatever it is. It's not the same.
Right.
But the ones that are just so bright-eyed and accepting and ready, it changes the whole thing.
Oh, it does. And I've experienced that a whole lot. I actually had a reading a couple of weeks ago. There was a girl that wanted to bring a friend, and her friend believed, but she was kind of skeptical. And she actually was the one that wanted to do this, the skeptical one. And her friend was the one getting the whole reading because she was so open, and everybody just wanted to come through. And I really struggled with the skeptical one, trying to get her to be just a little bit open. But once I could get there, then it kind of opened the floodgates. So you're absolutely right about that. It has a lot, I think, to do with your sitter and where they are emotionally and able to receive or give.
Well, and I also think the people around you make a difference too. So sometimes I sit here and I'll do a reading and it'll be okay, right? But you get the right person and it's amazing. When I was in Indiana with Dana, now you're friends with Dana, right?
Yes, yeah. Dana Stricker, we love her.
One of the socials, right? When we were in, what's that? Is that you, Julie? Julie? Did you just hear that?
I did, but it wasn't me. I hear it now.
I don't hear it now. I thought I heard like a man's voice. Is that what you heard?
Like under breath.
That's weird.
You didn't hear it, Tammy?
No, but I heard it was with Julie too.
I saw the look on Julie's face, but I'm hearing it at the same time, and I'm thinking, is something going on in her house? I thought somebody walked in on you.
And then you noticed my arm. I went like this because I felt like I was being touched.
Well, and I'm getting all the goosebumps. Okay, folks, you're in the middle of a moment. Here we are.
Also, we now have a huge thunder and lightning storm going on here.
Yeah.
Well, and on a side note, my home has been hit by lightning 3 times and me once.
Oh my gosh.
I have a love-hate thing with energy, I guess. I don't.
Wow. Wow.
When we were in Indiana, we were in a place where it wasn't just us. There were healers and energy workers, and the whole place was like buzzing with energy. So I felt like every reading I did was just incredible.
Yeah.
We got into the gallery, and Dana said to this guy sitting in the back of the room, and he's sitting there like this, and she's telling him, you're a skeptic, and he's like, yeah, you're gonna. He wasn't a mean skeptic, but he was a skeptic, And his grandmother came through in a reading, but he wouldn't acknowledge it. Mm-hmm. Somebody else was trying to claim it. And I remember she, it was pretty specific. It was, she's here. She would only take her picture. She would only take her picture if she looked well. If she wouldn't go out unless she was put together. And once she was older in life, she could get like that. She wouldn't let anybody take her picture because she didn't like the way she looked. She'd put her lipstick on. It was outside the lines. Oh, and here's the other thing is she used to collect coat buttons, and you have a box of her coat buttons. Nobody's saying anything.
Specific.
Right? Except for this woman sitting over here. She's like, well, my grandmother used to sew. And I'm like, I don't think so. After it was over, he came up to me and he said, I have to admit, I think you had my grandmother. She would never go out without her hair done. She used to color outside the lines. Her lips were never even. And I have a box of all of her coat buttons. And I went, why don't you say something?
Right. I know.
I was kind of afraid. Does she have a message for me? I'm like, I don't know. I hung up the phone.
She's gone now.
The moment has passed.
I don't know. It's gone. But it was kind of cool when you get that skeptic, that person who's a little skeptical. But that place was an interesting place. And I think, when we're talking about environment, I think that makes a big difference. It's the person and the environment make a huge difference.
I agree with that.
Great. Really great. So you're doing it now, and that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you travel? Do you do galleries and that kind of thing?
I would love to start traveling and doing galleries. I've done galleries here in the Oklahoma City area. I haven't been on the Paracon circuit or out doing any kind of Paracons or things like that as of yet. And a lot of that is just because I'm in Oklahoma City. So it's hard to get to Ohio or Michigan or so, and I've got 2 children in college. So
yeah, California, that's a long drive from California to get.
I know, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. I hear what you say. I mean, you're kind of like stuck. Hey, let me ask you this too, and I don't know Oklahoma well. Is it, it's funny because you mentioned your grandmother being Pentecostal, and Pentecostal and Native American to me are like the total opposite
I know.
Of the spectrum, And clearly she was open and understanding of what you were going through. But I thought you were going to say the other way, because she was Pentecostal. She was just kind of religious and couldn't see her way through it. But that's really great. What's it like in Oklahoma? Is it very religious? Do they accept this, or is it?
Yeah, we are in the Bible Belt, and it is different here. There are a lot of people, like, for instance, just to share the story, I had a board in a wood board in my floor that needed repaired. And I'm also a local ghost hunter here with Afterlife Paranormal Investigations of Oklahoma. And so naturally, my equipment is all in that room, just kind of stored away. And it's, obvious what it is if anyone's just looking. And he had come in to fix my floor, and he was very like, what's that? Well, that's ghost hunting equipment. Oh, where you're going, right? You're going straight to hell, right? I mean, he literally lost his mind because I had equipment. And I said, well, protection is of utmost concern with me. I'm a medium, and I'm all about protecting and doing things the right way and not antagonizing. And, there's just a lot of stuff that goes along with this, but I thank you for your concern. And he, of course, said, well, I don't know if I should be in this room with this equipment. He was very, very paranoid just from being around the equipment. So you have people. Yeah. You've got people on that side of the coin, and you have people on the other side that are like, oh, this is awesome. But there is a lot more controversy around here about it, just because of being in the Bible Belt and the area we are. There's a church every block here. So.
Right. Yep, I would think. So how do you protect yourself? And I'm going to give you a little hint. Ask Julie how she protects herself during an investigation.
How do you protect yourself, Julie?
Oh, serious. You make one literary faux pas on a podcast, and Mr. Scott Allen will not let you forget it.
And I have no idea what you're talking about.
We're not going to discuss that.
Oh goodness. I use crystals. I'm a crystal enthusiast, and I do teach classes on crystals. And so I do use a lot of crystals for protection, as well as just prayer. Prayer is 100%.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely necessary.
I agree. Yes.
And protect yourself with white light. You can do all these things before you enter locations. And then afterwards, we sage ourselves typically. Palo Santo sprays, anything like that will cleanse your soul. That's what you need to do.
And this is the thing that I find so incredible, because we all do this, right? Julie is a psychic empath as well. I think that people don't understand that prayer and God,
huge part of
prayer and God and what we do are not mutually exclusive,
Right. Exactly. Yes, there's a lot of people that believe that anything and everything we do as mediums is dark, and we're getting all of our answers from the wrong side, the wrong side of things. And that's just it. If there's dark, there has to be light. They go hand in hand. And just because we're doing the things we're doing and we're able to have these communications with people that are loved ones that have deceased doesn't mean we're getting it all from the dark side. What about the light side?
Right.
Exactly.
Marie Ruth
Yeah, I'm going to
has a
post that. There
question.
you go, right here. Marie has a question. There you go.
And I think what Marie Ruth, what I would question is, you said prayer is important, but what if someone isn't religious? I think when I say prayer, what I usually use the words, I pray to my higher power. And so whatever your higher power is where you're going to ask for protection. And it has, for me, it doesn't have anything to do with an established religion or religious cult. It's just the way that I like to live my life in within the means that I can. And I want to look back on my life and say, I was a good person. I tried very hard to be a good person and treated people the way I want to be treated. And that's what I think is important to my higher power.
Right. And I think to reiterate on that, go back on that a little bit. Also, we work with, and I do a lot of residential investigating, and I do that as well with the Warren Legacy Foundation for Paranormal Research. And in doing so, we constantly are in consult with these people that live in these homes. And it's not about driving a religion onto you for protection. It's what is your religion? What is your faith base? Right. And if you don't have a faith base, you can pray to your guardian angels. You can just pray for, I am light, I am love, I am whole, I am peaceful, whatever it is, to make yourself cleansed.
Well, and Tammy, if you go to a house and let's just say it's a Jewish family, as an example, right? They're not going to pray to Jesus.
No, they're not.
And the angels.
You have to ask that.
You have to ask.
It's important. Exactly. Any home investigation, one of the questions is, are you religious, or do you have a religion? Do you have a higher power?
Same with us. We ask it every time.
Yes.
And now what I will tell you, we've had this happen, and this was a case that I just recently finished working, and here in Oklahoma City area. And I won't divulge any, proprietary information, of course, but we had a couple that needed help, and we went in and we immediately figured out what we thought was going on. And we instituted, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to deal with it. And we're going to teach these people, we're going to empower them to cleanse their home and to do these things according to their beliefs, their religion. And we had the couple, one of them told us their religion and the other one hid it from us because they were different. So as we went about trying to help them through Christianity, which was what she said she was, then the other, we didn't know, practiced a different thing. So it would work, and then it would kind of go back and forth. And I finally said, is there anything I'm missing? Like, what are we missing? What, are you guys both same faith-based or not? And she said, I didn't want to say because I didn't know how you would accept his. And he is of a Norse pagan. Oh. And so she was thinking that we would not, we were going to be those Oklahoma people that don't think those kind of things are okay.
I can see why she would think that. Because of where you are.
Yes, right. But every religion deals with these kind of things differently. And you have, if you're trying to deal with something and it's not your religion or your belief system, it's not going to work. So you have to believe what you're doing, or it is just simply not going to work.
So philosophically, and I was just thinking this as you were talking, is it even possible to have a haunting, to know that it's a haunting, to know or feel that there's something there, but be an atheist?
I think so. I think so.
Because so atheists, you don't believe in God, but you must still be believing that there's something beyond this life, right? It's hard to kind of separate the two a little bit.
Well, I have a friend who is an atheist, a very good friend who is an atheist, but she also believes in spirit.
Right. So it's not like she doesn't think, well, you die, that's the end of it. It's black, right? Yeah, but it's not this being. So who would and again, who would an atheist, if they don't have that, who would they do?
Right. And that I think is where you would instill them to pray to their guardian angel, get guardian angels, or, you know, the higher realm, the, you know, beings or whomever to come protect them.
Yeah,
it's just very powerful. I find guardian angels are very, very powerful.
Very powerful.
We
all have them. We do.
Them. And growing up, I always thought, you know, Catholic religion. I grew up very, you know, Catholic. We all have a guardian angel, and I was on a home investigation, and we had a very, very talented psychic. And whenever I would go on especially a home investigation, I would do the white light. I would pray to my higher power, and I would also ask for protection from my guardian angel. And so, but I would feel as though I was surrounded by a guardian angel. And I remember, you know, in your mind, you think, wow, this is a really large angel or something. And Deirdre had looked at me. She introduced herself to everyone, and she stopped and she looked at me and she said, oh my, you have a lot of protection. And I said, what are you seeing? And she said, I see your guardian angels. And I said, there are more than one. And she said, well, hon, you have 3. And we had a conversation about it. And I said, growing up, I assumed we only had one. And she said, you have as many as you need. You're given as many as you need. So I guess because I dabble in this stuff, I need extra. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that. And that goes with our mediumship too, Scott. Like if there's somebody, for instance, that, you know, there's like something medical going on, we can call on our spirit guides to call in someone that has medical knowledge. So those kind of things where you can call in spirit guides to deal with certain areres that you maybe don't have knowledge. That's interesting.
It's funny though, because I know Dana does that. She's a medical intuitive, and I don't think of myself that way, because I always feel like spirit uses your complete lifetime of experience. So if you've experienced it, they can use it, right?
Right.
You know, they show you anything. But if it's something that you know nothing about, I don't know how that comes through. Do you know what I mean? Like you've never even conceived of it. They would have to show it to you a different way. It's just an interesting thing. You know what I mean? Like I will get things sometimes like, oh my God, tell Johnny he better watch his sweets. He's the diabetic, right? Or something like that, you know, and they'll say, oh yeah, he's a diabetic and he's always cheating on his, yeah. But I don't get things like Dana will say, you know, look, behind your eye, there's an artery and it looks like there's a little bit of a little stroke behind the eye. And it's, I mean, I don't get stuff like that. And maybe it's just, I've never experimented, but I don't get things like that. I do ask, you know, all the time, listen, guys, tomorrow's a reading. You know, I've got a couple of readings. Can you help me out? Archangel Michael, Raphael, my guides, you know, whoever, you know, I'll take all the help I can get. Because I always feel like, you know, if you guys go for lunch, I'm up a creek. I can't do anything, you know?
Well, that's exactly it. I do that too. And it's because it's not us. We are just the vessel.
That's it. It's like you're the telephone.
Correct.
Nobody can call you if the phone's not there.
Yeah.
You know,
and sometimes deciphering those messages is difficult. Sometimes you're like, I don't know why I'm seeing this and I don't have a clue. Like, what does this mean? Yeah. And you have to trust yourself to say it. Because 9 times out of 10, they're going to know exactly what you're talking about. And to you, it makes no sense.
And I think that's where, especially early on, you run into this whole confidence thing, because you're sitting there, your brain kicks in and thinks, well, that's really dumb. I don't want to tell them that. So why is it? Why am I getting? Must be.
There's a horse in the room, Julie. There's a horse in the room.
You remember that? There's a horse in the room.
Yes, which happened, and it turned out that someone in the gallery had a horse that they were mourning over. It's crazy stuff.
You know, I mean,
yeah.
And pets do come through. I've had a couple of readings where all of a sudden there's a dog that isn't there, but I can see it. And I said, did you guys lose a dog? Does it look like this? Yes. Can you see, you know, and I'm like, playing with your other dog over there. Yep. Hanging out.
It's just amazing how the information, how you get it, or how we get it, I should say, you know,
It truly is.
It's just amazing. And I guess the more you trust, the better it is. It's never 100%. You're always going to get somebody who says, I have no idea.
Yep.
Me either. I'm only saying it. It's what I'm seeing, and so I'm giving it to you. But maybe it'll make sense later on. I don't know. But that's just how it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do not try to understand it. I used to try to understand it so much. Like I need to know how this works, why this works. Yeah. No, you don't. You don't need to know. Just do it.
Do you think too, because this is my thing, right? So I do a few galleries. I've tried, booking some house parties, and I've done some, you know what I mean? I haven't done one in a while, but I always feel like as I said before, if they go for lunch, it's not my power. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, great, here I am in front of 50 people. Where'd you go? I mean, it always comes through, but it's not like learning to play the piano where someone can teach you how to play a piano. Then as long as they give you a piano, you can sit down in front of a group and at least play something, because you've learned it. This you can't learn. You can learn how to trust it and maybe fine tune what you get a little bit. But at the end of the day, if they say to you, nope, we're taking the gift back, it's done. That's it. There's no way to make it work. And for me, that's always been something that is a little bit difficult to manage. That's why I like to do galleries with other people. I love doing it with Dan that way. It's not that I had to rely on her, but it takes the pressure off.
Yeah. I can see that. I haven't done any yet. I have one coming up in July that I'll be doing like that. So that'll be fun because I've been wanting to do that.
Yeah.
And I've watched a million of them, and it always seems to like everybody kind of, and I know people can piggyback off each other in that way too. Like you get a bunch of mediums in a room, all of a sudden you're doing a reading. I mean, it's like this person gets this piece, this person gets this piece, this person gets this piece. And then all of a sudden they all connect and you're like, whoa.
It's really, and it can be even easier than a private reading, I think, depending upon, because you've got so much energy in the room that there's something coming through.
And energy is the key. I mean, I am convinced 100% that energy is the key to all of this.
Yeah.
So when you have low energy and you've got something you have to go do, even just a private reading, I mean, you're like, whoa, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to pull this off today. Like, I'm not feeling it. It's, and that's when I do go to my angels, guides, everybody, I need you on board. Let's go. We gotta do this,
True. You get a phone call right before that sets you off or whatever it is. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Or you have a bad crowd.
Yeah.
It's a smaller gallery and you have a bad crowd, or there's a minority of people that are just not acting or behaving the way they should. And it sort of ripples through the crowd, which has happened once. And it's tough. It's tough to get through that.
Because they can bring the energy of the whole crowd down.
But there's just the energy's gone. Yes, exactly.
There were a bunch of women who were drinking. They had nips. They were not acting appropriately. And it affected other people in the room. They were afraid to talk. And so it really just changed the dynamic.
Changes the energy. Yeah.
It really does.
Definitely.
I want to spend a few minutes because we have, maybe about 9 minutes left, 10 minutes left, believe it or not. I want to talk about the Warren Legacy Foundation.
Okay, yes.
Tell us about that a little bit.
Sure, absolutely. So Chris McKinnell is the director of the Warren Legacy Foundation for Paranormal Research, and he is the grandson of Lorraine Warren, the famous Ed and Lorraine Warren. He started this as a means to help residential paranormal anomalies, basically. So people are all over the world constantly reaching out to people, hey, I've got this going on in my home. And we talked about it earlier. We know there are a lot of teams out there that they're not in it for the right reason. They're not in it to help people. They're in it to go experience the paranormal, happenings and then walk away with, a tape or be on TV or get a show or, whatever it is, whatever their motive or their drive is. And, and then there's a lot of teams that are very legit and they do baseline readings and they go in and they have a protocol and they have you sign waivers and they want to really help you and find out what's going on in your home. Is it paranormal or not? And the main thing there is debunking, right? So if we have something happen, like lights are flickering in the home. Well, Warren Foundation, we want to make sure that everything can be ruled out first before we say, yes, it's paranormal. So we take these residential cases that come to us, and you can go to Warren Legacy Foundation for Paranormal Research on the internet, on the website, and you can just do a help. There's a help button if you have something going on. And we're actually nationwide. So we have people in all the states. We have different regions. We have regional directors. We're very organized in that fashion of having, everybody has a job to do. And then we have teams everywhere in those regions. We even are in South America, Central America, Spain, Australia, New Zealand. We have a presence pretty much everywhere. And all people basically fill out that help button. They do that help thing, fill out a form. It comes to us. We then take their case. And I'm also an administrative assistant for them. So I'm the one that receives all the cases I'm the one that receives all the applicants. Another admin of mine receives the cases. We both work together for the foundation. You can also join as a member if you have paranormal investigation experience for residences, and that's on the website as well. And so we're just a group of people that are literally concerned with helping people and not making everything the second that you come to us. Oh yeah, this is terrible. This is horrible. We got a problem here. Burn the house down kind of thing. We want to make sure and find out and try to ease people's minds and make them understand that some of this stuff isn't necessarily paranormal. And if it is, we have that too all the time. Then we are equipped to deal with it.
So I have to say, I'm more afraid of what appears to be some of the mental illness that's out there. And that's, there are things that go on, there are things that people tell us, and it's frightening. Like, I'm not going to go run off into somebody's house and you don't even know what,
right.
Is there a group within the group that deals with that aspect of it? Is there any kind of a psychological?
We do have parapsychologists, psychologists. We have a lot of people in the Warren Foundation that have doctorates, that are PhDs. We have priests, we have bishops. We have a lot of different realms covered when it comes to those kind of careers. And we do actually have protocols where mental illness is a huge problem. And if there is a suspicion of that, we will have them see a doctor, do a psych eval, just to rule that out so that we can get that ruled out and move on to where we need to help them.
Right. I think that's really important.
It
for
is.
Everybody, for them. And Julie, you had told a story about too, and it was not mental illness, but even things like EMF can make you feel having
absolutely. It'll create a fear cage. I mean, it's so important. When I was on a team that we had a young man on the team who was a licensed home inspector, which was great because he walked into one home and, the problem was there was mold.
Right.
And the couple, the wife, she said she would feel sick. She'd stay home. She'd feel even sicker. Next day, she'd make herself go to work and she felt okay. So she thought the house was haunted. And he just went and he found mold. Another time, there was basically, it was a very old house and the washer and dryer was in the cellar. Mm-hmm. And she hated to go down to, some people call them basements. Honestly, here, in Boston, they're cellars. These houses are old. They're not basements. They are cellars. And you walk down there and you have a dirt floor or maybe a cement floor. And the wiring was so old and so re-rigged over and over again. The EMF was literally off the charts.
Yeah, it probably wasn't grounded properly.
And there was just so much wiring that was rewired. And let's face it, in Boston, New England, we have Yankees who don't like to pay money. And if they can do a fix it themselves, they certainly are going to.
Right.
And this was a house that her father had done most of the fixing himself.
Right.
And it was literally a fear cage down there. It was just crazy how crazy the EMF was there. And it can make you very, very sick. It can make you hallucinate. Yeah, it's just very dangerous.
We've had a couple cases like that have actually been people that have called us from apartment complexes, and they're on the end of a unit, and right outside their wall will be all the electrical for that whole building. And the EMF is off the charts, and and they're hallucinating or they're seeing things. And it's like, well, your EMF is, way too high. So yeah, it does create that kind of a fear cage, as you said.
Have you noticed that in pets? How does it affect animals?
I think it does. I think animals are more susceptible to it than we are.
I'll tell you, I had a call this man called me from California, the real California, and he was having some issues with his cats. Now, this guy he's not a random person. His mother is a client of mine, and I know it. She lives here in Boston, and he's over there. She asked if I would talk with him. He doesn't experience anything, so he doesn't feel anything. There's nothing out of the ordinary, but it's always the cats in one corner of the room, and they're like this, and they watch, and they watch, and they'll sit there and they'll just watch. And I asked him what was outside the window, because they're right by the window, whatever room it was, and they have these huge high tension wires and these boxes right outside, the big gray boxes right outside the window. And I said,
right,
that might be it. I mean, you can try getting a meter and see if it's higher. He's not experiencing anything, but I would think the animals may be just sensitive enough to be picking up whatever it is that they're picking up in there.
Yeah, definitely. And another thing, when we investigate, and it's always sad when you have to go back to a family and tell them, no, it's not paranormal, it's rodents.
Oh God.
Oh, yes.
We've had that happen. We've had a home where they thought they were having activity, and our equipment kept going off, and we thought they were having activity. And when you go back and review, you see this little tail and these two beady eyes, and sure enough, it was just mice. That's what it was. And it's nice to be able to tell a family that kind of thing and debunk something in that manner, and get them back on the right track. It's also a horrible position to have to be in to tell a family, hey guys.
But at least you can make it go away. Call them
Right.
exterminator, and that's it.
Right.
Decon. Get some decon. You're all set.
God, I think that's it's just, I think there's so much on TV that people just think this is and some shows kind of exacerbate it a little bit. Everything's whatever.
Right. And I know in the Warren Foundation, we literally will see there'll be a new television show comes out, and we have a surge in cases all of a sudden, and it's just kind of like hand in hand, so there is something to it. I know. I mean, and that's just natural. That's humanity. That's normal. The more you see, the more kind of thing. And you naturally would gravitate to think that's it. So.
Right. Yeah, it makes sense. Tammy, we have a little over 5 minutes left of the show. So I want to, first of all, I want to say, I know you are doing another show after this, and it's for the Warren Legacy Foundation. Is that correct?
Yes.
So if people are interested in this, because I think this has been a really interesting conversation, where can they continue to watch you? Because you're going at, it's 8:00 Eastern.
Right.
So 8 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, if they just go on Facebook and Google the Warren Files, they should be able to find
Warren Files. Okay.
Files. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about protection tonight, guys. That's what we're talking about. Psychic protection and all the kinds of protection that need to happen for mediums, for people in general. Psychic protection. So.
We like to surround ourselves with golden light.
Yes.
Right? Golden light.
Beautiful, iridescent, golden light.
Golden light. And but do you do an hour show? Is that what it is?
We do. Yeah.
Good. So we'll check that out. And what is, I'm just looking here. Someone is writing in what if syndrome. What is that, Antone? What did you mean by that? Or what is that referring to? Was that referring to
I'm not sure.
not sure.
I'm not sure either. What if syndrome?
If you see this,
If you could type in the chat something real quick, because I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. Oh, what if me? What does that mean? What if me?
What if me?
What if me? I know we're all psychic, but I'm still not getting it.
What if me?
Close.
What if me? Close.
Yeah. Okay.
Is he trying to say what if he has been taken over by a ghost? Is that what he's trying to say?
I'm not sure. What if me? What if it's you? In other words, what if it's the person and not the house? Is that what you're saying? In other words, what if it's me that feels like, rather
possession or oppression? Yeah.
Oh, the shows bring out. Oh, it could be me. I see what you're saying. Yeah. Because the shows are so extreme sometimes.
Right.
Absolutely. We sit here.
Yes. And how many times? I mean, I remember, Scott, one of the last interviews that we did together. They wanted a home investigation done, and we always do a pre-interview, and we were doing it on Zoom. And basically, it was just someone who had made poor life decisions their entire lives. And instead of taking on the full responsibility of what of making these poor decisions, they had come to the conclusion that they were possessed, or there was a demon following them, or they had a curse on them. It was kind of sad, but there wasn't a whole lot, it was obvious what was going on. So basically, we just said to them, well, why don't you start documenting things, get a notebook and start documenting, and we will get back to you. And we did 2 weeks later. They never answered the call. So they just wanted to be told that what was happening in their lives was not their fault, honestly.
Well, and I think some too, like, oh, we're going to get to do what they do on TV. So we'll call someone, they'll come in and we get to be a part of that. I really think that could be part of it too.
That's a big part of it. And we have a lot of people that ask for help, and then we try to help them. And that's their first question and their last question every time we talk to them through Zoom or anything else. It's, when are you coming out? When are you coming out? And it's like, we need to empower you first to handle this, because right now you're running around with your head with a chicken cut off, acting like everything's crazy and you're scared, and that's not helping. That's the worst thing people can actually do when they feel like they have paranormal problems is start to fear it, because it will escalate.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And we've all been in some insanely haunted places that then nothing happens.
Exactly.
Nothing. And granted, if you're living in the house, it's but you're not living in an asylum. You're not living in it's still your home. It's your living room. It's your things. Mm-hmm. But, I think that you just have to, I would, as an investigator, I'd want to know what I was getting myself into. We've had people claim that their inanimate objects are possessed, their rolls of paper towels, their whatever it is. And it's right. It's a little bit, I can't help you with that stuff. Do you know what I mean?
All John Zaffis. He has this museum. He'll surround it with salt. He'll put it
take your item in.
He'll take your roll of paper towels. Anyway, Tammy, I want to thank you for being here. We've reached the end of the show. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Julie, nice seeing you. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week on the Paranormal Project. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you, Tammy. Have a good night.
You have been listening to The Paranormal Project with Scott Allen and Julie Finn. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. While you're there, leave us a rating and review so others can find out about the show. Stay haunted and go out there and explore the paranormal.